family, welcome to the Heaven with Pat. If you're tuning in for the first time, I welcome you. I really appreciate you being here. And if you're a regular fam, honey, you are greatly appreciated. I welcome you back. Finally, I moved into my new apartment after weeks of waiting. The process was so dragging. The referencing and the checkings that had to be done was so long and exhausting. But yay, finally, I'm in my new apartment. And excuse if you hear any background noises. My apartment is literally behind the main road, and sometimes it gets a little bit busy, especially during the weekends and all that. So excuse the background noise if you hear any. In today's video, I will be talking about the culture shocks that I experienced when I moved to the UK in 2023, the things that I found to be a little bit, a bit shocking, things that I found a bit unusual for me as coming from South Africa, the things that we're not used to in South Africa, so stay tuned. The first thing I'm going to talk about is obviously the behavior of the kids. Oh my goodness, in schools, it's super different. I think I mentioned this in one of my previous videos, that the behavior of the kids here, it's different from the one we used to in South Africa. Yes, I didn't get much experience in teaching in South African schools, but when I was still doing my teaching practices, I was able, to pick up on a few things. And when I got here, oh my goodness, when you tell a kid to jump, they're going to tell you to jump back. Yes, eventually they're going to ask how high, but it's still going to be a bit of an argument. They're still going to back chat and try to see how much they can get away with. And it's kind of very different, because in South Africa, if you ask a kid as a teacher, they regard you as an adult. They regard you in control of the classroom. And if you tell a kid to jump, they're going to ask how high without any questions at all. But here it's literally a different story. And it's not all the kids, just those few individuals in the schools, just those, they're trying to push your buttons, especially if you're new and all that. If I tell you that I've been called a B word by a student, I've been called stupid by a student, which I found to be really shocking. I was like... But then it's not really all the kids that behave that way. It's just those few individuals in classroom, like 1 in 3, 2 in 10 students who would want to push your buttons and just to test how much they can get away with. That was a bit shocking. So, but for me, instead of being upset, instead of being angry, I was kind of shocked, mostly because it's something that I never experienced before. I was like, how are kids here? But then what I like the most is that schools has zero tolerance of this kind of behavior. Immediately when a student does something like this, they are just suspended from the school, and there's just this whole disciplinary action that's going to take place. But still, for it to happen in the first place, that's what's shocking, because in South Africa, I've never really experienced something like this. I've never heard of something like this, so it's something that I found to be a bit shocking. And also, I believe that the way that a child behaves in school and in public as a whole reflects the kind of background they're coming from. So how the child was brought up plays a crucial role into a type of adult they're going to be, or the type, or when they get into the teenage stage, they start reflecting that kind of behavior they were brought up around or with. So I kind of I don't know, I don't blame the kids, and I don't really get mad at the kids. So I just yeah, it's shocking, but then it's something that you probably have to deal with, because my colleagues were like, what's your first time? I was like, yeah. And they were like, welcome to the club. It's something that you should get used to. It's something that happens, and that's really shocked me, especially if you're new. They'd be like, oh, she's a newbie, we're just gonna do whatever we like, we're just gonna disrespect them. And then you obviously have to push back those boundaries and be very strict to make sure you don't tolerate that thing in the classes. Or I found a bit shocking about living in England was how warm, how kind, how polite people here are. Literally, people will step out of the way for you to pass. saying thank you, saying please, saying excuse me, saying sorry, it's something that is not unusual here. It's something that you hear all the time and people just say it. So it's kind of like reflected to me that people here are really, really kind. You know, even the cars would stop for you to pass across the road. You know, it's that people hold doors for you to get in. So it's kind of like really, really nice. You know, people are very friendly. People are always smiling. As much as like pretty much everybody is kept to themselves, but they're not really like, it's not easy to make friends or to befriend people, but then people here are really, really kind. You know, if you see a person in the grocery shop, you can make a small conversation. And one thing I've never experienced, I've seen a lot of people on social media saying they've experienced discrimination, bullying. I've been here for a little bit over a year and I've never experienced discrimination. I've never experienced racism. I've never experienced like anything that would make me feel like or remind me that I'm a foreigner in England. So it's kind of like really, really good environment. Another thing that I found a bit shocking is how ladies would wear mini skirts, vests, short dresses in a single digit degree. Like in 3 degrees Celsius, you would find girls out with mini skirts and short dresses. I mean, excuse me, you'd never find that in South Africa. People will be wrapped up in blankets with their radiators on. You know, you literally never find that. So that's like one thing that I find a bit shocking. And I've seen it a couple of times, multiple times actually. You know, when I go out, even in restaurants and clubs, they will like wear really, really, really short skirts, and you'd find that it's freezing outside. And I'd have my long coat on, my gloves and my scarves, and I'd be like hiding my body because I don't want to experience or any of my parts to be exposed to the cold. And you just see them and like, you know, I always feel cold on their behalfs. I don't know. Like when I see someone with a short skirt in cold, I always get cold on their behalf. I'd be like, and my body just... People in South Africa are scared of cold. You're so scared of cold. You never find girls with mini skirts out in the freezing cold. Never. And another shocking thing for me is how British people love baked beans. You know, baked beans in a can. Oh my goodness. I feel like in every single meal, in everything that they eat, they will add baked beans. Well, not like everything, but like 70% of their dishes would have baked beans. And to think that we in South Africa, including myself, we used to have baked beans as a salad. You know, you have like your baked beans, you added like a mayonnaise in it, and you have like a nice salad, especially on a Sunday. But I don't think people are still doing that. But yeah, love of baked beans in here. And I've had baked beans myself, like in a couple of meals living here, and it's really, really good. But I don't think it's necessary to have it like in almost all your meals. You know, I feel like they literally open up a can of baked beans and just eat it from out of the can without warming it up or doing something like that. Yeah, they love baked beans. The thing that's like sort of like stood out for me when I first got here was the language, the accent mostly, because coming here, I believe that I spoke decent English. I was able to communicate with the person and understand each other. But when I got here, I was a bit, mind you, I've never had a British accent before, so it was my first time. And it took me, I had to request some good grace for me to be able to understand, because they are so fast, especially with the British slangs and all that. I was in a bit of a pickle for me to understand. It took me some time. Even now, I still have to beg pardon in some cases for me to be able to understand, because British people are so fast when they speak. And mind you, coming here, not ever heard the accent before, it was a bit of a struggle in my work, you know, with the students. I was able to communicate with them. Sometimes I can boldly say I never understood what they said, so I literally had to say pardon for me until I eventually get it. Especially with the slangs, I did not understand what they were saying at all, so it took me some good time you know, for me to finally, you know, kind of like get it. It's still a bit of a struggle even now, but it's like it's so much better compared to the way it was when I first got here. Another thing that is a bit of a shock for me that is huge in UK is like the support for disabled people, and like mental health is such a big thing. Yes, we do mental health support in South Africa, but not as much as in UK. It's one thing that's like stood up for me. They take these things seriously, they take actions to make sure that people with mental health issues are supported, disabled people are taken care of. So that's something that's stood up for me, and it's a really good thing and that I admire the most. So because we don't really get that much support for disabled people in South Africa and for mental health issues, so here it's kind of like a big thing, and it's taken very, very seriously. They're like support in places, even in schools. They're like consoles, places to be if students are like, you know, struggling mentally and all that. So it's quite a big thing, and I really admire that. Another thing that's like stood up for me, it's like safety. Oh my goodness, it's so safe in the UK or in England where I am, and you don't see like those sneaking people on the corners, those drug addicts ready to snatch your phone away. You don't see that. So you will never see that. Even the guns are not available. You'll never see a single person with a gun. You've never hear that someone has been shot like a few miles away from you. You'll never hear that there's been like a robbery and in one of the supermarkets in town and people were shot. You would never hear such things. So the level of safety here, it's like one thing that's literally just standing out for me. I don't think in my life I've ever felt any safer than this. So I'm not saying that it doesn't happen at all, but personally where I live, I've never heard of those instances. And even if it does happen, it's quite, people always get shocked. It's something that is not common, something it's unusual. So when people hear about it, they always get shocked because it doesn't happen that very much often. I found it a bit shocking how they don't have like small independent shops like butcheries and bakeries.
What?
I feel like there should be butcheries. If you want meat, you always have to go to a supermarket. You can't just go to a butchery where you have like a variety of meat, just meat only, you know, just that. And bakery, if you want some bread, you always have to go to the supermarket. So like lack of small independent shops here, it's like kind of like a shock for me because I've never seen a place without butcheries. Maybe there are butcheries, but where I currently live, I haven't seen any, to be honest. And I kind of like think they should have one. But here you always have to go to the supermarket and you end up buying things that you never intended to buy in the first place because you're going to a supermarket if you want some meat. So I feel like you end up spending more money even if you did not anticipate it. So yeah. So we've come to the end of our video today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to leave your comments, questions that you have in the comment section below. Until next time, bye.